talk about getting a latch in 5 easy steps. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure baby's tummy is facing mommy. So if you're going across the front like this, that would be good. If you're doing a football hold, it'll be like this. Okay. Next, you want the arms wide open. Oftentimes we see moms want to swaddle their baby's arms down. And the problem with that is the arms are actually doing a really important job in the breastfeeding situation here. Their hands moving and massaging the breast actually help your body to release hormones to help breastfeeding be successful. So make sure arms are wide open. They're on either side of the breast. Step number 3, you want to make sure you're supporting the baby at the base of the neck, not the back of the head, but you'll place your hand at the upper back, base of the neck. You could even hold the baby by the ears a little bit, very gently. And this will allow a few things. This will make sure that when you're bringing the baby to you, you're putting pressure on the back and the head will follow. In addition to that, by holding the baby here, you don't restrict the movement of their head. And the movement of their head is important with breastfeeding because they will tilt their head back and gape their mouth open. So if they have the freedom to do that when they're getting ready to breastfeed, that helps you achieve better latch. Next, you'll want to place the baby in a position that the nipple is across from the nose. Oftentimes we think, let's put the nipple across from the mouth. That seems logical, right? But when the baby tilts their head back and gapes, the nipple's not in the ideal position that way. I'm going to show you with my little puppet here because I feel like it is a little easier to see and understand like that. So if you're placing the nipple across from the mouth and the baby opens their mouth and gapes up, the nipple could go under the tongue or it could be landing right on the tongue. When the nipple lands on the tongue, you're going to often see a nipple that's shaped like a lipstick or have a crease across it. And that's because the nipple's getting friction from the tongue and it's going to cause nipple damage and pain, and the baby won't be able to transfer the colostrum appropriately. So if you look at it this way, when we put the nipple across from the nose, they're going to tilt their head back and you put your pressure on the baby's back, and that nipple lands in the top half of the mouth, exactly where it belongs. And that leads to step 5, a long, regular suck. If your baby's doing really fast sucks or doing 2 sucks and then stopping and doesn't keep a nice rhythmical fashion happening, then you need to go ahead and break that latch and reapply the baby. 5 more things I'd like for you to consider when you're getting a latch. The first one we already talked about, and that's putting pressure on the baby's back and the head will follow, not putting pressure on the baby's head. That will help keep the baby nice and lined up. The second thing is you'll notice that when you're following these techniques that the baby's chin and lower lip are going to arrive at the breast first. The baby's not going to arrive like this because the baby will tilt their head back and see how the chin and the lower lip will get there first. That's really important. Next, I want you to think if it is pinching, I want you to break that latch and reapply again. Pulling is the sensation you should feel, just a pull sensation, okay? But pinching usually means the baby's right on the tip. You'll notice in these images that the neck stays neutral when you have a good latch. The chin is not placed on the chest. The neck is nice and neutral. And then in this one, you'll notice that the ears, shoulders, and hips are lined up nicely. These are things that will really help ensure that you get a good latch. How can you tell if you have a good latch? This is a great question. You will feel pulling, not pinching. That's the first thing I want you to know, okay? So when you get the baby latched and they've sustained their suck, I want you to think in your brain, is this pinching or pulling? Number 2 is a nice, long, slow suck. And we talked about that earlier. Number 3 is the latch will be asymmetrical. Oftentimes people think they'll be able to say the same amount of areola at the top of the baby's mouth that they do toward the bottom of the baby's mouth. But if the nipple belongs in the top half of the mouth, when the baby has a good latch, you can't really see in this one. When the baby has a good latch, you'll see less areola down here toward the chin, okay? That looked painful, didn't it? Okay, this number 4 is really important. You should be able to hear the baby swallowing, okay? Now, at first, when you have colostrum, it's thick, and it takes a while to get to the baby's mouth and for them to swallow. So you're probably gonna hear a swallow about every 6 to 10 sucks or so. But after your milk has come in, you should hear the swallows about every 1 to 3 sucks. It will be noticeable. And the fifth thing that you'll notice if you have a great latch is that you will start to feel menstrual cramping. Now, I know there's some unicorns out there that don't experience menstrual cramps, but for the most part, if you're a first-time mom, you'll feel mild menstrual cramping when the baby has a really good latch. And the reason for this is because of the release of oxytocin in your body when the baby's breastfeeding. If it's your second, third, more children, then you can expect more intense cramping. And the more children you have, the more intense it gets. So with my third, I felt like I was in labor all over again. It was intense, I am not going to lie. Earlier, we spoke about breaking a latch if the baby didn't have a comfortable latch and it was pinching instead of pulling, or if the baby didn't seem to have a nice rhythmical sucking motion. So I want to speak to you why this is so important. It's very important because if you are just sucking it up and tolerating a painful breastfeeding session, a few things are happening. The first thing is it's damaging your nipple. So it's causing damage, which increases pain, which decreases the likelihood that you're going to want to feed the next time. And it introduces an opportunity for infection when your tissue is damaged. Okay. The next thing you need to keep in mind is that, if the milk isn't being transferred appropriately with a bad latch, the colostrum or milk staying in your breast actually tells your body to make less because it assumes that the baby doesn't need more since the baby didn't remove it properly from the breast.